Hello, Consiglieres, and welcome back to a new movie breakdown. Now, film adaptation is something you guys have seen a lot in Hollywood, especially lately, from novels like The Wizard of Oz or Hunger Games and Forrest Gump to crime movies like The Godfather. So in this video, we're going to discuss the movie adaptation of The Godfather and if it was true to the original story. Mario Puzo once gave Francis Ford Coppola and his adaptation of the book The Godfather a very high praise. In 1996, he told Charlie Rose, "If you pick the best 20 movies of all time, you'd have to include that movie." I don't think you could say the same thing about the book. It's a different thing, a different evaluation. So there wouldn't be such a brilliant movie without this great book. With Puzo co-writing the script, he made sure plot, character, sequence arrangement, and the dialogue became alive. However, there was a difference. The film omits subplots for small characters and introduces the story as an epic family tragedy, in opposition to the deliberate, well-written, and compelling novel style. Did you guys read the novel or just watch the movie? The book of the film both stress Vito's power and appeal by criminal subordinates, politicians, business connections, and even his enemies treating him as a ruler, not a criminal. However, at this point, we spot the first difference as they emerge. The book interchanges between an omniscient third-person perspective and through the eyes of different characters. With this, you can see Vito through people not affected by his appeal. When a doctor looks at him, he doesn't see a regal patron or an all-powerful chieftain. Instead, he sees a man in an ill-fitting tuxedo who only stands out for his straightforward practicality regarding the wants of a dying man. The Godfather movies make no reference to the mafia's horrors or the price the Corleone family paid for their tenacity, despite the fact that the books made sure to do so. Jack Waltz doesn't have an internal monologue regarding the atrocities committed against him, and Michael doesn't pause to consider his father's influence on society. The first two movies don't explicitly mention these ideas, but they may be inferred from watching them. As a result, you can't see Vito's regal aura on screen. Nobody in the first film sees Brando in that tux and thinks of an unimpressive worker. He's always portrayed as a great figure and as being more kind than the character in the novel. Now focusing on Vito, you see that throughout The Godfather Part 1 and Part 2, Vito's role, in the finest details, comes very close to Puzo's book. To escape a mafia's vendetta, he was sent to America as a boy who grows into a devoted family man. Don awoken to his violent ambitions through a series of events. He uses an olive oil import company as a front to establish his own strong mafia family, which is based on political influence and gambling. Later on, a mob land war takes place at the beginning of World War II that leaves Vito's gang at the top of the other 5 families in New York. As you see, this grants Vito respect, affection, and fear through the city and encourages his sons, Sonny and Fredo, to enter into the mafia, while Michael, Al Pacino, disappoints him through his defiance. Because Michael himself witnessed the mafia's ruthless justice when hiding in Sicily, he sees the damage the mafia has done to his homeland and can only think of what his father's way could do to America if it remains unchanged. In The Godfather 1 and Part 2, Vito Corleone engages in or commands all acts of violence for personal reasons. He committed his first crime, stealing a rug, in order to have something nice to give his wife when he got home. After Don Fanucci threatens Vito and his family, he kills him. Threats are made against a landlord on behalf of an elderly woman. Don Cicco's murder in Sicily puts an end to a grudge that was started when Cicco killed Vito's brother and dad. Horsehead in the bed? A courtesy to his godson. Only competing gangsters commit murders and deformity in the name of business. Vito's shady ascent to power from the book is not depicted in the film. Competitor olive oil merchants were intimidated or vanished. Chicagoland gangsters were brutally tortured as hired killers, and even his closest colleagues were indirectly threatened. The film maintains the horror of Vito's deeds by restricting the targets of his violence to those who pose a threat to his loved ones, and pair them with a more emotional and human purpose for the sake of watchability and storyline. Before we continue, if you're new, please subscribe and help us reach 10,000 subs. Now, let's quickly get back to the video. The performance of Brando and De Niro further this humanizing component. Although Vito is regularly praised in the book for his charm, tact, and reasonableness with people, he frequently distances himself from even the people he loves the most in keeping the renowned status others have given him. Even when Vito displays genuine devotion, there's a coldness to him in Puzo's book. This isn't accurate of Vito in the movies. Brando and Pacino frequently portray their characters in earthly hues and chic yet understated outfits to visually establish the roles and their rural origins. De Niro portrays the young Vito as being tender and affectionate in scenes with his wife and kids, and frequently cheeky, even playful, when handling business. Even when planning Fanucci's murder, he gives his partners Tessio and Clemenza sneaky, indirect assurances with a good-natured smile. His handling of the landlord is almost comical until it becomes a serious menace. The older Vito was given a hard but honest demeanor by Brando and a tough but kind demeanor in family matters. Whereas Brando's Vito weeps, as he did when Michael stays in the hospital to defend him, Puzo's Vito merely needs to brace himself against the Undertaker's shoulder at the sight of his eldest son's body. Although in the book Vito spends his last minutes with his grandson, it was Brando who invented the origin, Monster Mouth, in the game that followed, adding some sweetness to the Don's final moments. Despite Michael's initial opposition to the family's way of life, the book never holds back from emphasizing the similarities between him and his father. Michael has his father's charisma, professional demeanor, cunning, and ruthlessness. They may be more Americanized, but they are essentially the same. Brando's portrayal of Vito in the movie contrasts sharply with Pacino's portrayal of Michael, who's more chilly. The initial distance between them is only so great. Michael's humanity still shines through his romance with Kay. However, Michael shows that he's incapable or unwilling to defeat the devil while remaining human when he enters his father's world, a contrast that's highlighted in The Godfather 2. The failure of Michael to maintain his family was not a plot point in the book, rather it was inserted to emphasize the tragedy of his transformation from an idealistic youth to a mafia leader. But without that crucial contrast between him and Vito, this would not be conveyed as forcefully as it did. The end of Part 2 and Part 3, a severely underrated film in our opinion. Tell us what you think about it. Settle it down. Part 2 shows the family celebrating Vito's birthday with everyone being cheerful and dedicated to him but Michael, who's grieving alone after murdering his brother and his wife banishment. Even though The Godfather Part 3 doesn't cut to footage of Vito's death, it does in a general sense echo it. The father passes away while happily playing with his grandchild in the garden, whereas the son withers away in a courtyard after his daughter's death resulted from him continuing the family's sins. The result of these minor changes in a character who appears substantially different on screen than he does on paper. According to Coppola in the DVD commentary, Vito is a character who outwits the devil because he was able to live a wicked life as a mafia don while persuading his family, himself, and the audience that he was a good man. He was a character who could be at peace with his actions, taking into consideration of the omission that happened due to many factors such as watchability, storyline, and generally speaking the limited amount of time film adaptations most certainly lack in comparison with books, which are better at defining characters. Please tell us if you like it or not, and don't forget to share it with other Godfather fans. We have a playlist full of theories and analysis you can check out. If you have any questions for our upcoming videos, please let us know in the comments.